Let's take a look at how we can create a high key image in post-production. If we turn our attention to the histogram panel here, we can see the majority of tones are very bright. We have some dark tones, but the majority of the tones are on the right hand side of the histogram, and these have been created by these two adjustment layers. If I just hold down the Alt or Option key and click on the visibility icon of the background layer, we can switch the adjustment layers off and we can see the original exposure for this image. Okay, so what we're doing is we're basically brightening most of the midtones but preserving the depth and character of these beautiful shadow tones here. And this final adjustment layer just extends that brightness even further. Okay, let's take both of these adjustment layers. I'm just going to shift click to select them both and then drag them to the little trash can in the layers panel there, and we'll start this project afresh. I'll just double click on the histogram to collapse that. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come up to the select menu and choose select all, and then from the edit menu choose copy, and this copies all of the pixels on this layer to the clipboard. We're now going to come in and choose a levels adjustment layer. Now what I want to do, I want to paste the pixels in the clipboard into this layer mask. Now if I just hit paste right now, we're just going to create a new layer and actually want to paste the pixels into this layer mask. And so the way we do this is hold down the Alt key on a PC or the Option key on a Mac and click on that layer mask. Now this allows us to view the contents of the mask. Now there's no pixels in there at the moment, but when we come up to the edit menu and choose paste, we can now paste those pixels into that layer mask. Now this will be a grayscale view of this image because we are in a layer mask and not viewing the actual image. Okay, from the select menu, I'll just choose deselect to lose that selection. Now if we want to return to the image, all we need to do is click on the little thumbnail here and we can go back to the color image. And if we want to view the mask again, just click on it to select it and then Alt or Option click to view that contents again. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to make an adjustment using the gamma adjustment in the layers adjustment panel here, and I'm going to drag that a long way to the left. I'm going to drag it to around about a gamma of 3 or so. Now you can see a lot of the tones have become a lot brighter. Now if I just hold down the Shift key and click on that layer mask to disable the layer mask, you can see what will happen if we didn't have a layer mask in place, making such a generous gamma adjustment in that levels adjustment. Okay, it basically makes the whole image just look overexposed, and so this layer mask is actually preserving the darker tones in the image. We can actually improve on this layer mask by increasing the contrast of this layer mask. Let's just Alt or Option click that layer mask once again and just apply some adjustments directly to the layer mask. Now we're not altering the image itself, we're going to be working on the layer mask just to increase its contrast. So I'm going to come up to the Enhance menu and come down to Adjust Lighting and choose Brightness Contrast. I'm just going to move the contrast slider significantly higher just to increase the contrast of this layer mask. Okay, and the other thing I'm going to do is just raise that brightness a small amount just to brighten up those skin tones. Okay, the other thing we can do is also apply a levels adjustment to this levels adjustment layer mask. Okay, now obviously this is an adjustment layer, so we're coming up to the Enhance menu and coming down to Adjust Lighting and choosing Levels. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to increase the contrast by clipping some of those black tones in the layer mask around about 20 levels just to create some nice solid tone there. And also we're going to come in and clip some of those brighter tones in the skin. Now again, we're not actually clipping the skin tones themselves, we're just working on this layer mask, and the effects will become apparent when we click on this little icon again and return to the color view. Now we can click on an undo and see a before and after of us adjusting just those levels on that adjustment layer mask there. Okay, and again, just a before and after, we can just click on and off. We can see that we've already come a long way to creating that high key effect. Now if I want to improve this even further, what I can do is I can hold down the Command key on a Mac or the Control key on a PC and click on that adjustment layer mask to load the mask as a selection. And then I'm going to come in with a second adjustment layer, this time brightness contrast, and now we'll raise the brightness just a little bit further. Okay, here I'm raising it to around about plus 25 there. Now what we're doing is we're perhaps pushing those skin tones perhaps just a little bit too high, so I can control that by coming down to the first levels adjustment there and pulling in the output level slider, that white slider there right at the bottom right hand corner of this panel, and just push some more tone. You can see if I just push this a long way, you can see how we're pushing tone back into those highlights. Now I don't want that much, so I'm just going to go for about 235 or so, just to make the skin tones have some nice tone, so we don't want to push to absolute white there. Okay, one of the things I've also noticed about this high key adjustment is we're starting to lose the depth of these lips here. So I'm just going to strengthen that tone up in that area. So again, I'm going to hold down the Alt key on a PC, Option key on a Mac, and click on that levels adjustment layer so we can view the contents. And what I'm going to come down to is the Burn tool in the Tools panel here. And this one sits behind the sponge tool, so we need to come down and select that burn tool. I've selected mid-tones as the range, and I've set the exposure to 50%. And with a small brush, I'm just going to paint over those lips. Now we might need 3 or 4 painting actions, or we could alternatively raise the exposure to paint a little bit more quickly than I'm painting here. And what we're just doing is we're just strengthening up those tones. We can also strengthen up some of the tones perhaps around the eyes and the eyebrows. And we can increase the size of the brush. I'm going to use that close square bracket key just to increase the size of the brush. And I'm going to darken up the hair as well. 2 passes over here and just down. Okay. Now because we're focusing on the mid-tones, the high key tones are actually protected predominantly from this adjustment. So we're just burning in these mid-tones now. And again, perhaps 3 or 4 passes on that hair on the right hand side. I want to keep those nice rich tones. Okay, like so. Now we've built up the contrast of this mask. I can click on this icon on the levels adjustment layer to come back to the color view, and there we have our high key adjustment. And again, holding down the Alt Option key, we can see a before and after by clicking on the visibility icon, and you can see how we've adjusted that. And if we take a look at the histogram here, here's our high key, the majority of tones on the right hand side of the histogram, and to go back to a before, okay, you can see all of those tones moving much more towards the center of the histogram here. Okay, so that's my high key adjustment. I've also created an action that we can use inside of Photoshop Elements for applying the high key with just a couple of clicks. I'll just select both of these adjustment layers and then just drag them to the trash and just show you how I can play this as an action. I'll need to move over to the guided edit to play this action. And we can scroll all the way down to Automated Actions, Action Player. And then I'm going to select my high key from the options, Adobe Photoshop Elements High Key Action. And then we can select one of the options here. Now I've got high key by itself, which we've just been looking at, but I've also got a smooth version here. And if I want to play this, all I have to do is click on the play action. I'm just going to go into the before and after view here. Okay, before and after horizontal, and we're just going to play the action so we can see the before and after now. And there we go. We'll just zoom in to a clean magnification. This 21% isn't giving us a good idea of detail here, so I'll just Command plus on a Mac or Control plus on a PC just to zoom into a nice clean 25% magnification. And as we can see there, we've got the before and the after, and there's a little bit of smoothing of tone going on in here as well. I'll just go back to the full edit, and in this particular action that I've just played, we've got all of the adjustment layers down in here that we can use. And if we want to push just a little bit more information back into these highlight tones, I just need to lower the opacity of this top adjustment layer. I'll just lower that back down to about 70%, just to push a little bit more tone into those bright skin tones. And that completes the high key effect.